Virtually every leader in the health freedom movement talks about the insecurity of the food supply as one of the primary avenues of tyranny. Our family has rigorously sourced our foods for over a decade, and one of our favorite sources is Farm Match. And specifically, if you are in San Diego, Real Food Club PMA. My kids are literally made from their maple breakfast sausage and the amazing carnitas we make from their pasture-raised pork. But from regeneratively raised raw dairy products to the organic potato chips made in regenerative lard, or anything you might get at your local farmer's market, our family's overall wellness and the security of our food lies in the hands of Farm Match and Real Food Club. I am so excited to be sharing about Farm Match and Real Food Club to offer Future Generations podcast listeners 10% off your first order. You can find the code and link in the show notes. Enjoy the rest of the show. Love and appreciate you all. The desire to go off-grid and disconnect from the system was one of the single most important initiatives any household could have. Whether it is growing our own food, becoming sovereign in our energy production and usage, establishing alternative communication strategies, or digging a well and finding the infinity of primary water. About a year and a half ago, our family moved into our new home in North County, San Diego on 3 acres of precious land here in America's finest county. One of the first things we did was hire Food Forest Abundance to design a regenerative layout for our land. From the different trees to plant differing berry guilds and synergistic pollinators, to consulting on alternative energy, collecting our rainwater, and even helping us find our local well guy, Food Forest Abundance and their Freedom Farm Academy has been pivotal in the gradual and consistent evolution of our household towards true sovereignty from the system. They have helped us simplify a very confusing process and helped us create the design of our dreams. It doesn't matter if you have 3 acres, dozens or hundreds, or just a small yard. Food Forest Abundance has something to offer you and your family in your journey to move your entire household off-grid. Use the code TheFutureGen to work with the absolute best in the world, Food Forest Abundance, to create your own freedom farm and get off-grid at a discounted rate. Welcome to another episode of the Future Generations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stanton Hom, and this episode is, Cory Gautereaux, Army veteran, ex-Blackhawk crew chief and door gunner, respiratory therapist, somebody who has unique perspective on COVID. And now he is the expert, not self-proclaimed, super humble guy, the expert on the Eastern San Diego County border issue. There are very few episodes that I honestly feel are as important as this one today that I got to do. There are very few episodes that I hear something that I'm actually pretty well educated on that make me pause, that make me cry, that make me hurt inside for the children, for the trafficking, for the country, for humanity. And I believe that Cory has a unique power that is firmly placed in a humility, firmly placed in an expertise, firmly placed in a man of character, service, and that type of character that's the salt of the earth kind of guy. Cory has some stories that I think every single human being should hear. I think many of you will be able to engage. I know our listeners, I know how much you guys care about these issues. I also know how much it's so easy today to stand in this place of, that's not my issue. And there's other things that are really important. And then you listen to somebody like Cory and you hear a lot of the stories, which I got to hear so many more offline. And we actually need to record like a 10 episode series because this is one for the record books. This is one for the record books in terms of why human trafficking and why child trafficking is not only an issue, but it's an American issue. It's a San Diegan issue. It's an issue that's happening literally at our borders, and it's happening in a way that's affecting every single one of our country and one of our cities. And it's happening in a way where there is so much, not just darkness and evil, but so many who are philanthropists, politicians, leaders voting for funding, promulgating an industry that, whether you want to talk about things that I did not know, is labor mills here in the country, organ harvesting, you name it. We talked about it. We couldn't go deep on any one particular thing, but we honestly went further than I've actually heard in a single interview. I'm very grateful. I'm very honored that Cory shared that time with us, shared his expertise with us. And I promise you that if you hang with this, you will see not only the significance of this moment and this movement, but also the significance of this man and the GOAT initiative. I highly encourage you to donate everything you can to the goatinitiative.org, Cory's nonprofit. He is too humble to ask. And in the end, I believe firmly that all of the money that you put into this will be not only to contribute to the awareness that will continue to happen at this man's hand, but if I believe in someone who has that level of grassroots grunt effort to make it happen, to will it to happen, it's Cory. I genuinely hope you enjoy this episode. I genuinely hope that you are moved by this episode and that you share it far and wide. If you have children, you know this pulls at your heartstrings more than anything that you could ever. And if you're an American, if you love this country and if you love freedom and the free world, if you're in San Diego and you know that this is a home-based issue, then donate, share this episode, engage, and honestly, just pray. Genuinely love and appreciate you all. Welcome to the Future Generations podcast, providing you with the world-changing content necessary to inspire you, your family, and our planet to a life of optimal health potential. We'll help you make the choices that powerfully influence the lives you bring into this world. It's time to strengthen our resolve, do better now, and for our future generations. I'm your host, Dr. Stanton Hom. Okay, welcome to another episode of the Future Generations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stanton Hom, and this episode is one that I have been looking forward to more than most, mostly because I think there's a lot of commonalities between me and this fine gentleman in front of me, Cory. Cory, you're an Army veteran, an ex-Blackhawk crew chief and door gunner. You're an East San Diego County resident, essentially born and raised for the entire time, your whole life, except for essentially the Army. Respiratory therapist, which I imagine we could probably have, encyclopedias of conversations on all the crazy things that you saw over the last 4 years. But largely what attracted me to you was a lot of my friends were starting to really highlight the border and highlight a lot of what many of us see on screens and many of us maybe think is an election priority, and a lot of it is politicized. And then you just start to see the things like literally behind you, like the things that you have behind you, the artifacts, the findings, the evidence. You've essentially not self-proclaimed, but many of us are viewing you as the expert on the East San Diego County border situation. And Cory, I would love for you to introduce yourself. I'm very grateful for you to be on the podcast because I'd love our audience to get to know you because I think your perspective is something that most of us don't realize is affecting us every day, every moment, especially like me. I mean, this is a silhouette of my child, on my logo, and all of us are affected by this situation. So please share.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I thought you were going to say what attracted you to me was my beard, but
well, I just shaved because I was just up in Arrowhead, and I have 17 hairs right here, and they grow like here, and then I have 4 on each side, and I just grow that Fu Manchu. So yes, I would say that's also it.
So yeah, you said most of it there. My name's Cory Gautereaux. I'm from San Diego County. Grew up out here, not as far as where I live today, but I spent a lot of time in high school. I had a Jeep, and I was out here off-roading and shooting and just being an American kid out here having fun. So I'm very familiar with the backcountry. Like you said, I was in the military, I was in the army, and then I got out and became a respiratory therapist. If you want to talk about that first, I've got a great story for you.
Let's
Um,
do it.
so uh, I was an RT during COVID, and which was eye-opening experience. And then my current business partner and I started a gun store also during COVID. Not the smartest idea in the world, but it actually turned out to be really good.
Yeah, I bet it did. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but gun sales during COVID were great.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just doing that now, but I'm also doing the borders because I live out here. So yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
So I think it's, given the uniqueness of your background, I think you were uniquely prepared to kind of navigate this expertise that you have now. I'd love to know, like, kind of maybe more about that inspiration. Like, what were some of the catalysts that maybe charged you into this seemingly huge purpose? Like, I love watching you because, one, you're humble. Two, you know your shit. Third, it's like you're voracious. Like you're super, like, vigilant around this whole process. So
That's a very good way of putting it. Everything that I did previously brought me to this point, and then I moved out. It's funny because I moved out here to get away from the homeless problem.
wow.
Right, the illegal immigration problem, and all of the things that I've done, even that done right or wrong, they've all been lessons, and they brought me to this point that I don't necessarily want to be in, but I'm here. I'm here for a reason. God put me here, and I mean that's the only way that the only thing that I can figure out why I'm here, why I moved here, why I started finding this stuff, and then what I could do with my findings, and then the people that have been that I've surrounded myself with, intentionally or unintentionally. I got a phone call from a guy last night. We'll talk about the organization later, but we have an operation coming up where we're trying to find some of these children where they're going. And I've been, who can I call? Who can I talk to? And then boom, the guy just calls me out of nowhere. And this has just been happening since I started doing this. People are the right people with the right backgrounds are contacting me to help me with this stuff. So one of the things I don't have going for me is I'm a big bearded white dude, and the news tells everybody that you don't want to listen to people that look like me because I'm automatically racist, right? I hate all the brown people coming across, even though most of them aren't brown right now.
Yep, right.
So I've been trying to, if you just talk to somebody, you talk to your neighbor, that doesn't come up at all. We're just people. Nobody cares. It's in the military. I don't care what color anybody is. I'll make fun of everyone equally. So the respiratory side has, what's the best way to put this? The respiratory side of me, the medical background side of me, has provided me with the empathy to understand the plight of some of these people that are coming across. Not really the ones behind me, but some of them. We've been told that these people are coming across the border for a better life, and which is true. Some of them are. Some of them are taking advantage of this loophole that we've created, our government's created, and I can't blame them for that. If I was in a bad situation in another country, I would be bringing my family here as well. I cannot blame them for using the loophole that we've created.
Right.
But there are a lot of bad actors that are coming across, and those are the ones that we need to be worried about. And on top of that, what people aren't seeing. So we've invited people from all over the world to come here, basically with our arms up. Come on in. We're ready for you. You just have to cross over the border, climb over the fence, go through the desert, whatever it may be. What people aren't seeing, and they need to, from both sides, red and blue, these women are being raped. The kids are being raped. Men are being raped. I have a video. I haven't posted it because it's too bad.
Wow.
A guy from Venezuela, and he was in his probably early 20s, and they had just crossed. The cartel had cut one of the pillars of the fence, and they pushed it across, and about 100 people came through, just like that.
Wow.
I was walking through, and I know you've seen the people.
Mhm.
Where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? I try to be a little bit more human to these people, even though I know that a good amount of them are bad actors. Still, I try to talk to them.
Humanize it. Yeah.
And I was talking to this one gentleman, spoke pretty good English, and I speak some Spanish. We were going back and forth, and he was telling me he was in tears, telling me that they crammed him into the back of a small U-Haul. This whole group crammed them, and they said they were treating them like cattle, and then they made them get out at gunpoint and rush through the fence. And the cartel takes kind of like proof of life photos or videos to show whoever that everyone made it across. There are just so many factors to this that we'll get into some of the horrible ones later. But
Right.
people are some people are just thinking that, yeah, they're coming across and we're helping them out. That's not the case. We're basically feeding the birds, and if you feed the birds are going to keep coming.
Wow.
It's pretty sad.
I think it's I remember when it's kind of funny how you said that you moved like to get away from the problem, and then now you're like neck deep in it, and now you're one of the experts in it. And thank you for what you're doing, by the way, because I think you're highlighting it in a way that is very unique. That's kind of my philosophy too, especially in healthcare, is you see a lot of dehumanistic practices. You see a lot on how like people become objects, people become numbers, people become cattle, metaphorically, but in reality. And it takes a very strong character to rehumanize a process that's so like in the darkest places. So I commend you for that. But my parents, right? Like my dad's side came over in the 40s, 5 men, served in World War II for obviously our side. Died. My grandfather died, a patriot, died giving me American Legion magazines. Like I was a snotty teen, where I was just like, but I was also at West Point, and obviously you have your opinions on that. but the point is, that's one side, right? The other side came over later in the 60s. And I remember my grandmother getting her citizenship. I remember her sitting at her kitchen table with all of us cousins and saying, who is Abraham Lincoln? Like just going through the things that she had to know, right? And then when she learned English, like it was big for us because we didn't speak Taiwanese. Like most of our generation doesn't speak Taiwanese. And just the process, right? And then you start to hear about these other generations that came later and all these different loopholes and all these different people who essentially started to take advantage of the situation, right? Take advantage of like building like birth centers in LA that women were literally flown to, they would live at, and they would birth their babies, and then they would have citizenship, right? And then, those grandparents would then be, shipped over later, and all their assets, their wealthy people, would be put in their children and grandchildren's names. And then these people would live essentially off the government because they could. They're extraordinarily wealthy people. Meanwhile, my grandparents, came over with nothing. Like they had 4 kids, traveled from Taiwan to Japan to Brazil, her husband and their oldest first. And then my mom, her 2 younger brothers, and my grandmother came literally like a year later. Like it took them a whole process to get over. And then their friends, their best friends that they, essentially lived with in community because they're from the same country. Like my grandparents struggled, sandwich shops, cleaners, all sorts of things. And this other family, wealthy already, taking advantage of the situation completely. My parents tried everything they could to move away from Chinatown. My dad grew up where The first Chinatown was in LA. Grew from there to like Monterey Park to Rolling Heights, and then just kept going east, trying to get away. And that's just kind of how it kept going, right? But the point of me saying that is we don't even know. We don't even, like, the common folk don't even know. They just think if you're blue, you love immigrants. If you're red, you're racist, right? Like it's so polarized and it's so politicized that somebody like you who has the demographic that you have, being a white man, like, can't speak out about this because you're immediately kind of put into that dehumanistic, marginalized position, when in reality, it is so much worse. It is so much worse than we could ever imagine. And so thanks for sharing that, because I think it's a huge, huge, huge factor.
I kind of just gave not give up. I don't care. I don't care. People can call me racist. They can call me whatever they want. I don't care. I've saved hundreds of people, children, babies, neonates. Not once did I ever look what color they were. Not once.
Wow.
So
in this process just now, you're saying that you
as a respiratory therapist.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So like we were saying, my background is people can, at first I tiptoed around it because I know what I look like. Mm-hmm. At the hospital, I was called the critical care bear. So there you go.
So given this whole situation, right? And I know it's a loaded question, but I ask it every time because I ask it based upon the expert that I'm interviewing's perspective on, like, what this whole border issue. What would you say is the biggest challenge of it?
There's so many facets to this problem. That's a very, very difficult question. The biggest challenge at the beginning for me was people that live in the Midwest or non-border areas, right? They didn't care at the beginning because it didn't affect them. What I've tried to do, every interview that I've done, I have talked about, or people ask me, are you scared where you live? No, I'm not. These people here are seeking asylum. They have to be on their best behavior.
Right.
So from here to a lot of the places that your family lived, and then once they go there, then they go across the United States. Now what I'm seeing are places like Tulsa and other places throughout the country, and they're going, whoa, 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 whoa! What are all these people doing here? And I've been yelling from the rooftops, on my horseback, running through town, saying, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" Mm-hmm. Too late. Now they're here, and so the biggest thing that people still don't see is that it's not a border problem. It's not just a border town problem. They're not staying here.
No,
them are not staying here at all. Now, a lot of this wall is Chinese. A lot of the Chinese have come through this area. Yeah. They're going to, you could guess, Monterey Park.
Yep.
San Gabriel.
Yep.
And one that I haven't heard of, Flushing, New York. Yeah. Are you that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So those are the three big ones. And I'm in, this needs to be like a 10-season podcast.
I know, man. I know.
I found a cell phone. I got a cell phone. The password was, I found it. I came home, charged it. I have a bunch of cell phones that I found now, but I charged it, and I'm looking on it on the smudges to see if I could find the password. Looking like this, and went back, tried it again, went back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whole thing opens.
Wow.
The guy who had the phone, his entire trip from Wuhan, which 5 years ago I would have no idea.
So fucking crazy.
To here, the coordinates right down the road here of where the wall ends, the grid coordinates, mm-hmm. And then a piece of paper that he had a picture of in San Gabriel, address in San Gabriel, his entire trip, pictures, everything.
I'm mind blown right now. I got goosebumps. That's usually a sign for me.
So I have to. I would love to share the whole story with you, but it's coming out soon.
Yeah, yeah.
I went and visited that house. I was at a cat. I try not to go to LA ever if I don't have to. Now, because of all the stuff that I know, I know way too much at this point. I don't go west of the 125 anymore unless I have to. But I was at a California narcotic canine conference in LA, and I said, yeah, I'll just go San Gabriel right down the road. I'll go check it out. I went to the house. It was a stash house. Long story short, the Chinese illegal marijuana grows, their business model where they'll create an LLC under textiles or something like that. They'll run the illegal marijuana grow for 6, 9, 12 months, shut it down, create a new LLC. They took that business model for human trafficking.
Wow.
So in about the cell phone goes pretty deep here.
Really?
I'm in about 40 different Telegram chats now from the one phone. And within these Telegram chats are instructions on how to get to the United States from these separate countries. Like I'm in the Chinese ones, there's a bunch of them. And Azerbaijan, Ukraine, Russia, Nepal. And then I paid the $3.99 a month to it. I scroll through and it will translate almost in real time. So while I'm not sleeping at night, I'm going through these chats and just absolutely horrific things in these chats. Absolutely horrific. And being in the military, we have some bad jokes, the things you want to say in front of your family.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that are in these Chinese chats, I had no idea. I was in the military with Chinese people. I was in the school with Chinese people. They're all usually very
proper.
Proper. The stuff in these chats,
Give me one example.
Military.
Give me one example. I gotta like.
They really do not. So one of the chats has like 12,000 members. I'm not saying all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They really do not like Black people.
Yeah,
there's some horrible stuff, and it's not just jokes that we would make in the military to each.
Oh man, like I think that's a wild thing, right? Like if you think about, I mean, I remember when they came out with the Army values, right? What was it, like leadership or something like that? Loyalty, duty, respect, and selfless service, honor. How do I know this? Like it's crazy that I know this. I'm fucking indoctrinated. Integrity and personal responsibility, right? That was weird that I just like. But respect for others, right? Like the things that we were actually just kind of taught, right? And then you see like the military, it's like all the things that we're saying, it's like LGBT and all, we don't need to go down that route. But the point is like, dude, these other countries don't play by those games, man. Like they are so like brutal. And I can't even imagine what. And that's probably on the nice end, right? That's probably on the nice end as far as like race.
I have some examples that I have here for you. Not of the racial.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It just blew my mind how like stuff that would make you and I go, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, exactly.
See that? Let me find a good one here. I made notes of. So back to what you were saying about your family and growing up here. I grew up with kids. They're my age now, but growing elementary school, and their parents or one of their parents, they were an illegal. I never thought, I didn't know what that meant. It didn't matter to me. Still doesn't matter to me. The difference that I've seen from the illegals, 30 years ago versus today is huge. The ones that came across for a better life, to give their children a better life 30 years ago, when they came here, they did something that these people that I'm watching firsthand. So again, this is not a racial comment. I see it with my own eyes.
Totally.
These people that are coming, when they came across previously, like your family, they assimilated. Now, that's a scary word nowadays, but it shouldn't be. You come to America for a better life because it's the greatest country in the world. Now, you assimilate, but you don't leave your culture and some of your values behind. Like, what if all the Mexican people came here and just assimilated? We would not have burritos, and I'd be very upset. Right? They bring their culture with them, and that's what we love about America.
Yeah,
it's a melting pot. The people that are coming now, there is no assimilation. It's, what do you have for me? Why am I waiting out here so long to be picked up? And I've watched this firsthand. They were given food by one of the NGOs, which
wow,
drives me insane. And they were complaining that the food wasn't good enough. Now, the friends that I have whose parents were illegal walked through the desert for days.
Yeah, man.
Endured this massive hardship and quite literally almost died. These people are flying in some instances, especially a lot of the wealthy Chinese that are coming through. And I see, I'm speaking of the Chinese a lot because I see a lot of Chinese.
Of course.
They're coming with Louis Vuitton bags, dropped right at the border, walk around the fence, and then get picked up. It's so they're flying into TJ, getting a vehicle from TJ to right out here, and then coming right across. There's no hardship at all. It's just coming across. Okay, what do you have for me? And they have a plan that's been talked about in here in these.
Yeah, I'm curious about
that. There's so many different ones that I saved for you. I should have marked them better, but basically what they're talking about is, okay, sending people here and having kids here, using the welfare system. And when I say welfare system, I'm talking about everything from health insurance to to EBT to
all of it,
preschool, free education, all of that. Utilizing that to have their kids go to school until they graduate. So they're basically fully assimilated or integrated at that point. And then the kids go back to China after either high school or college here, and then go back to China and be utilized for what? It doesn't talk about that, but it outlines the entire plan on how to get your kids educated for free, food, healthcare, everything, all the way through all of the education, and then go back to China to, I pronounced it wrong. It's Peking University.
Peking. Yeah. Peking. Yep.
And there was another one that they talked about. But the chat, there's just so many different things in these chats. They're even talking about how it says poor white people have nowhere to go and are forced to stay in this country surrounded by mentally ill people. People who were born in the United States and can only speak English will become more and more pitiful and mentally abnormal.
Wow.
The Israelis will turn this country into a hodgepodge to ensure their own interests and developments.
It's insane, man.
They even have on this. That's a chat, and they list 4 lawyers in Los Angeles by name who are assisting with this. If you want to get a green card, go to them.
I know, and it's like, to what end, right? To what end? For sure, right? Get a free education, like feed off of the U.S. government, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, and I'm not surprised that the majority of what you're finding is Chinese, and not because, I mean, this is really funny because my dad is not a racist person. but he is very racist, especially when it comes to Chinese, and he's Chinese. Like, it's really gnarly, right? Because he is born here. He's my dad's dad came, fought in World War II. My dad is born in LA, and he knows basically LA, like you probably know East County, like the back of his hand. He knows everything about it. I can't wait to even talk to him about this because he's going to lose his mind. But just thinking about like when people are talking about this whole thing, like as the invasion, right? Like it's not an invasion. Like they're not coming here, maybe, maybe, but they're not coming here to start a war. Like they're not coming here to light everything on fire the moment they get here, right? They have to be on good behavior. They're trying to immigrate here. They're trying to take advantage of the system. But the Chinese are playing the long game. They're playing the game generations down the line, decades down the line, and they know that they're going to get the best education in the world. They're going to get every single resource in the world here, and they're going to go back. And they're going to have dual citizenship. And it drives me so insane. Like, it drives me so insane because my dad would always talk about this because he was American born Chinese. They call him ABC, right? And he said the most racism that he ever experienced wasn't from black people, wasn't from Mexicans, because he grew up in LA. Like he's like I can get down with everybody in LA. Like my dad loves Motown, that's his thing, right? But it was the Chinese. The Chinese would be like he and his sister and and his siblings, they would be in line at a Chinese bakery, and it would be a Chinese born Chinese bakery, and they would not get served. Like they were marginalized because they were born here. And assimilation, like you're saying, it's like, yeah, for sure. Like, where would America be if people didn't actually assimilate into this country? And now recognizing that we're essentially losing not only the current war, but the long war because of our policies, because of our, like our principles or whatever you want to call it, the thing of our vulnerabilities in many respects, it's crazy. So I'm curious because I think I've seen you, some of your clips on child trafficking, and I don't want to put that as your current mission, but every void in the world has the seed of potential for value, for purpose, and for mission. I'm curious if you could verbalize, based on the things that you've kind of been through and the things that you're experiencing now, especially with the border. Like, what would you say your mission is, if you could verbalize it?
Easy to verbalize it. It's not easy to
Execute.
execute. Like I've said a million times, and it's hard not to say, there are so many different facets to this immigration problem. But the thing that really bothers me the most, and are the children. The as a respiratory therapist, I was the pediatric liaison between one of the local children's hospitals and the hospital I worked at the time. The kids the kid stuff really bothered me. Not bothered me in a way where, well, I guess yes, it bothered me mentally, but I have the ability to work through it and go to work the next day and help the kids again. So for some reason, the children issue has been my goal to try and help. And I think it's because God's given me the ability to be this big scary white guy and gentle at the same time and help the children. And I don't want to say I don't dwell overseeing, there's the out of all the deaths that I was part of as a respiratory therapist, the only ones I remember are the children. But I can still wake up the next day and go back to work. And so I'm taking that experience that I had as an RT with kids and bringing it over to this. That's the biggest thing for me, are the child trafficking, because it is so horrible. And now when I say child trafficking, there's 100 different facets to that too. We're talking about sex trafficking, um, labor camps. Did you know we have labor camps in this country?
No.
Yeah. Organ harvesting. Now, just saying this stuff,
Oh God. It's making me sick.
It makes me. That's why I'm very careful with who I talk to about what. And I'll talk to you, watch your show. I'll talk to you about anything. But I can't go on CNN and get a message across when I go, yeah, the organ harvesting. They're like, yeah, no one's going to listen to that. No one's going to believe it. No, they don't want to. They don't want to believe that happens in this country. And they don't want to hear about it. So it's a conspiracy theory. I'm working with a guy named Jared Zoldowski. Recently, last Thursday, 2 Thursdays ago, I took him out to the border, and he told me a story about the most recent organ harvesting situation that they know of as a fact, not a conspiracy theory, not a we think this happened. It is documented. They know about it. And he's been working in this child trafficking arena, anti-child trafficking arena for 30 years. So I'm going to paraphrase the story. Don't quote me on everything here. I'm going to try and remember exactly what he told. Every time I go out to the border, which is right here, it's just a overload of information, and I only have so much room in this big head of mine. So a 14-year-old boy was trafficked to a border town on the south. This didn't happen in the U.S. This particular case did not happen in the U.S. And when he got to where they were taking him, the traffickers were paid $15,000 for the boy's left eye.
What?
Yeah. And that's happening every day. And it's a kid who now doesn't have an eye, and who knows where he is, what happened to him. A lot of the movie The Sound of Freedom is a horrible but very good movie, and it's very, a lot of the situations are similar to that. Did you see the movie?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it actually.
When families are promised, I even saw this when I was in Korea. We'll talk about you go to I never went to a strip club in Korea, but if I did, if had I known all this at the time, I never would have gone. But the girls there, a lot of them were Filipino girls.
Wow.
They're promised a dancing or a singing career or something like that. And then they'll come from the Philippines to Korea. They'll end up working in these strip clubs right outside the base. And their passports are taken from them, so they can't go anywhere. Now, the room and board is taken out of the pay that they get. So it's this cycle where they can never leave.
Wow.
So with these children, it's very similar, and just like the movie The Sound of Freedom, where they're going to make this little girl famous, and she's from this little town in the middle of nowhere where nobody cares about, and no one's going to care if that kid goes missing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do care, and we're going to do everything we can to stop this stuff. I told someone on another podcast that I was on, I've been in contact through my firearms store. So my firearms store is like a barber shop. People come in.
Yeah.
We talk about anything and everything. I'm also a law enforcement dealer, so I get a lot of different law enforcement agencies. Most of them have not wanted to touch any
of course.
Almost all of them.
Probably can't.
Yeah, there's
probably a lot of red tape, probably a lot of weird stuff. I use the phrase can't loosely, obviously.
I have some theories about why this has never happened before in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Invasion, right? So we have Joint Terrorism Task Force, we have the Child Trafficking Task, we have a task force for everything, except for this, because we never saw this coming. Myself and my team are basically the
task force,
border, whatever you want to call it, invasion task force with all of the intel. I wish I could show you everything else in this room. You're welcome to come out with me, and I'll show you everything. But there aren't people to go after any of this stuff at this point. I think a lot of these guys that I talked to through the store in after November, we'll see what happens, right? They're building cases and they're working hard to try and do something when they have a command that will actually allow them to do their job.
Wow.
So go back to what I was saying. One of the gentlemen who works sort of in this arena, when I told him what I was going to do, he said, "You'll never make a dent." And I didn't. I think you've probably seen my response on the other
Mhm.
podcast. So yeah, I'm not going to take that for an answer.
Yeah.
I wasn't given this. I was not put in these positions to have all these different jobs to lead up to this. To just say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to let the little kids get trafficked over to Ohio and then screwed by some old white guy in a trailer park somewhere. No,
Wow.
not going to happen. And if there isn't a task force, I have one now.
Wow.
Active duty. But we're fortunate enough to live in a town with a lot of special operations guys, and that term gets thrown around so much. I'm
Mhm.
over it. But the people that I have on my team, if they'll never be talked about, and if you meet them, not yourself, but if you meet these guys, then you're on the wrong side of
Right.
and the law.
Right.
So I have a great team, and it is slowly growing, but we don't really need anybody at this point. It's a lot of what we do need is funding because stuff is so expensive. Just radios alone are $1,000 a piece. Now, people are going to say, "Well, why don't you use the little Baofeng radios?" We did, and the cartel started jamming us.
No way.
Yeah.
So that's a question I have. Obviously, I mean, the cartel. That's the Mexican cartel,
Mhm.
right? But there's the Chinese that are obviously highly orchestrated. And while you know that you don't fear your life from the actual people that you see because they have to be on their best behavior, right? But do you, from those higher kind of entities, does that cross your mind? Does that affect you at all?
Doesn't affect me, but it does. I more of people close to me. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I got you.
So what we were saying was the cartel and um, China. At this point in time, I don't know if I can differentiate between
Interesting.
China, the cartel, and the NGOs that you and I are paying with our taxes.
Oh God.
Because they're all
That's the thing, right? They're all together. They're all interwebbed and they're all part of it.
there's I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to give it away, but
Of course.
we are going after these NGOs. So we're trying to. This is my war room, as you can see, and we've tried to figure out what the best way to go about this is. And there's the only limits that we have are time and money.
Wow.
Everything else we.
So many people have asked me what I do to stay mentally and physically resilient in the midst of the unending polarization, fear, and tyranny. Literally nothing has made a bigger impact for me than daily cold plunging. 3 minutes, 37 degrees every morning for over a year now. My friends, I wanted to tell you about the Edge Tub from Edge Theory Labs. Their portable and inflatable tub can alternate between an ice bath and hot tub. I've been regenerating the benefits of cold plunging every day, like better sleep, better focus, and more energy. We have had some really amazing interviews to learn more about cold exposure. But in the meantime, I invite you to check out Edge Theory Labs' website to learn more. I'm also happy to share an exclusive offer for Future Generations podcast listeners, $150 off using the code TheFutureGen. You can find more info in the show notes. Get cold. What's up, FG fam? One of the single best companies whose products have supported the optimal wellness of our family for years is Earthly Wellness. Kate TG and her team have stood for truth, health, and freedom in ways that paved the way for so many of us. They experienced heavy levels of censorship long before it was popularized, and they stood strong and persevered. Their products are clean, cost-effective, and honestly, they work for all ages. From supporting my wife, our oldest, and our little guy, Earthly Wellness provides products that have been foundational for our family for years. We especially use their products right before bedtime. Their Feel Better Fast and other herbal tinctures are some of the best in the world, as well as their amazing Goodnight Lotion, the magnesium oil, are mainstays. I am so excited to be partnering with Earthly to offer future generations podcast listeners 10% off your first purchase. You can find the code link in the show notes. Enjoy the rest of the show. Love and appreciate you all. The question I always ask next is future pace this for me. Future pace your mission. I love your certainty. I think when you were asked that, or when you were told that you would never make a dent in this, and you said, "Watch me." I think that's what the direct quote was. And I don't want to be on the other side of, you or your team either, right? That's why I'm interviewing you. But secondarily, what do you envision for the world? When you are successful, what does that world look like to you?
I don't, unfortunately, I have to be a realist here. I don't think it will ever be fully successful. This is a very lucrative. It's not like drugs where you just take the drug one time and now you need more drugs to come in. It's horrible, but these children can be used over and over again, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. So as long as there's a need, the different organizations are going to keep feeding this. So what does the future look like for me? There's a lot of different organizations like the one that I've just created that I'm finding out about it, and they're very quiet. And we are, I don't want to say taking the government's role, because that would probably put me on some kind of watch list. So we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But teaming up with these little, maybe it's best to say, using the hub and spoke distribution system. So if we have different hubs throughout the country, which I'm learning about, and they're reaching out to me, and we're working together, and we can navigate this together, and then get a administration that this is my big hope. An administration that comes in, I don't care who it is. I care who it is for my own, my own reasons, but an administration that will come in and say, "Hey, we know you guys have been working on this. It looks like you created a task force. We need to work together.
Right.
Let's work together. Let's get this done." When I say done, I mean as much as we can. We're going to flush these people out. One of the big problems is these people, not necessarily with children, just with the massive amount of money that's involved in this. They are very high up in local, state, and federal government, and I think that's part of the reason why this has not been flushed out. One of the organizations that we're going after next week, their revenue in 2022 was $750 million. It's an NGO, so a non-government organization, and they don't make any money. They don't have any goods or services that they use to make money. So how's their revenue?
Right.
Quarters of a billion. Right. Well, you pull their 990 tax form from ProPublica, and all the money comes from us, all of it. And there's a location, there's actually two here in San Diego, one in El Cajon, 1.7 miles from my gun store, hidden in plain sight.
No way.
Another one in the Alpine area. I know people could figure this out, but I'm trying to be somewhat cryptic here.
Yeah, I got you.
And this organization is housing these children. 3 weeks ago, the DOJ slapped this company with a lawsuit, a complaint letter. I don't understand how they haven't been shut down, because in the complaint letter, in the lawsuit, they talk about how child molestation is occurring within this organization. And this organization is all over. There's a couple dozen of these. They call them CASAs throughout the country. But why did they not get shut down? Why were they just
slapped?
No, yeah. That'd be
it's no different than when like the WHO will say that a certain shot or a certain drug wasn't necessarily safe, and it's basically a money grab for whatever pharmaceutical company is developing that. As they play these games to kind of put smoke and mirrors to say, hey, we're holding them accountable.
Yep.
We're not on their side, right? But the reality is they're all shaking hands underneath the table. They're all passing money back and forth. Far more money and revenue that we could ever even imagine on a person to person basis. But who's caught in the middle of that is these kids. It's fucking insane. This is insane. So, what would you say? I'm curious about some of the other organizations, because I'm part of a lot of different groups. And there's always, everybody has their thing. Some people talk about health. Some people talk about, historical buildings. They talk about there's one of my friends is the master of primary water. He knows that underneath the Earth's surface, there's infinite water. There's no such thing as a fucking drought. There's 54,000 man-made lakes, that they control, and they control the height of the water, and they tell you to save your water because they control it, and they sell you the money. They sell you the water that's free. Anyways, the point is everybody has their thing. And when Sound of Freedom came out, I thought it was one of the first movies that I felt was in a long form way, highlighting something so front and center, so acutely affecting virtually everyone, humanity, generations, right? But there was this rumble of well, what have they actually changed? And what will they actually change? And is it organization to organization that it matters, who actually makes an impact, who actually is, maybe legitimate, who's actually got, good ethics, etc. I don't know the back end of even, just informing people about child trafficking, etc. Are there good players on the good side? Are there bad players on the good side? Or does it really matter? Everybody's on, essentially united for the same mission.
So I'm pretty all of this, right? So I'm still learning about the different organizations, and some of the people have reached out to me directly, and I've talked to them on the phone, and they've shown me some of the stuff they do. A lot of the organizations do stuff in other countries because there's a lot more leeway and get a door down and getting kids. You can't necessarily do that here.
Yeah.
I can see that a lot of people are very close to that point. So it is that's a difficult question for me to answer.
Yeah, of course.
In the game.
What would you say? I would say the majority of our listeners are parents. The majority of our listeners maybe aren't listening anymore because it's way too much, right?
I hope they are.
I hope they are too. I'm curious. I wouldn't say the majority. I would say many of our listeners are probably holy cow, I'm going to have to come back to this. Maybe we have to do a 10 episode, series, because I think there's just too many strings to pull at. But what would you say are some of the big things people can take action on now? Especially here in the county, right? Knowing what we know. I'm not close to the border anymore, but we have a whole host of patients from all across the county. I'm curious if we could move people in a direction of action. What would you charge them to do?
A call to action is something that I didn't know about until COVID. Right, I just was living my life like most people, and get your shots and do what you're supposed to do. Then COVID woke a lot of us up.
Right.
So I've been trying to think of what a call to action is. And so for the last year that I've been doing this, I just started this nonprofit about a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't wanted to do it. I've been funding all this stuff on my own. Someone asked me, how much money do you think I spent? And then I actually sat down. So I don't know. So I sat down and thought about it. Probably spent like $15,000-$20,000 of my own money
Wow.
over the last year trying to document this stuff so people can see. And I know realistically, yeah, people don't want to hear this, and some people probably are going to turn it off. And I really wish that they didn't. And that's so then I go back and forth in my head. Should I just tell enough where people will pay attention, or do I go into the organ harvesting and that kind of stuff? So the call to action would be a couple of them, which is one, be careful where you're taking your kids.
Wow.
Malls, be very careful. Uh, some of the casinos have some really nice playgrounds on the those are not great places to go.
Gotcha.
So just be very careful. That's not necessarily a call to action. That's just a and I don't want to scare anybody. We still need to live our lives, right? We don't need to be afraid of this COVID, child trafficking, right? Live your life. Just watch what's going on around you. You can see people if they don't look like they belong in the playground. Just go somewhere else. Go to the beach.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else. So call to action is this is happening everywhere. San Diego is one of the biggest hubs for trafficking. We didn't even get into the labor stuff, child labor.
Right.
And I would just ask people to just look at it a little bit and then see what talk to your friends. It's a horrible thing to talk about and discuss, but why is it so secretive? I don't understand. It's
Yeah.
akin to my wife having a miscarriage, and we're like, what? Wait, what? And then you find out, well, what's the percentage? I don't remember that people that have miscarriage. It's like almost everybody.
Yeah.
Not really everybody, but it's once you start talking to people and you go, well, this is really happening here. Yeah. Okay. Well, what can we do about it? Well, we can help these organizations financially, monetarily. That's like I said, I hate asking for that. Or we can look at, well, who's funding this? How's it happening? And this is the little bait that I'll give your audience. The county board of supervisors have voted multiple times to give money to these organizations.
No way.
First, just like COVID, the COVID shot. At first, we probably thought it was a good idea until we started looking into it. Here's the organizations: Jewish Family Services,
Wow.
Catholic Charities. Now you can actually go pull those are the two big ones. I don't want to give anybody any extra homework other than that. Look who's on the boards. Look who the directors are. Now, why these are both nonprofit organizations. They're all over the country. They have more money than we've ever even thought about before. And they actually give each other money, which
what was the second one?
Jewish Family Services and Catholic Charities.
Wow.
Now there are a few other ones on that list that the Board of Supervisors voted to give money to. The only person that didn't was Jim Desmond.
Yeah.
And Jim and I talked with Miles, one of the guys that he works with, and so we're all in the circle of sharing information. Nobody's outed any of these organizations because once you look and see who's part of these organizations, you will understand how powerful they are.
Wow.
That's my call to action is look where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's coming from you, from your pocket. But after that,
I think the big difference between Sound of Freedom, and I think you definitely nailed it in a sense that this is here. These are our towns. These are our borders. This is our country, and these are also our county supervisors, and they are also our tax dollars, right? They're essentially what is driving firsthand the system, right? And I think education is a good first step. Awareness, obviously, situational awareness is always, no one ever, there's a ton of people that would rather just not have situational awareness for sure. But I would say if you care about humanity, if you care about the world that your kids are going to inherit from you, then this is something that is one of the top priorities for sure. And I would say I am not humble enough to ask, like, I think your nonprofit, like, we will share all the links, and I would gladly like ask our listeners to support the work that you're doing, because I don't think there are a lot of people who you could see your entire journey, right? And you can see it because you can see how human it is, but you can also see how, quote, and this is not offensive, like novice it is. You're just a dude that just cares. And then you're also just rehumanizing a process that can become Hollywood, that can become philanthropic, and it can drive a lot of revenue, but in the end, it's like you're just a dude that sees a problem that is, you peel enough layers of those onions, and you're like, oh, like
Yeah.
like the chapters that you could actually write. I think people don't know how grassroots what you're doing is, and how like bootstrapping, literally bootstrapping this entire thing is. And if people care about these, kind of big movies, if you're inspired by Sound of Freedom, so many millions of people watched it and were so inspired by it. But where does that go? Like, you have to, like, once you're inspired, you have to put something into action. And I would say, share about your nonprofit, share about the name, share about where to find you, share about how people can donate. I would love people to know that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I started, it's called the GOAT Initiative. It's the goatinitiative.org. And I started because people kept telling me, you gotta start it. You're at a point now where you need to start raising money. I mean, I don't know if I should share this, but I will. I have sources, which is just weird to say, right? Because I'm just this dude that lives out here. I have sources within probably most local law enforcement agencies, local, state, federal. I have sources in the Mexican military.
Wow.
Which there's three different camps out here, and I found out that they only, just by talking to them, they only get 2 meals a day. Well, that's easy. Just bring them a pizza, some sandwiches. I would never pass anything across the border because I'm pretty sure that's illegal. But if I leave it right there, they grab it. That's not my problem. And they will hand me. I'll show up with the pizza, and they will hand me bags of
No
passport
way.
and ID.
Wow.
Now, again, that money is coming from me, and I never thought about it. So that's why I started the organization. And the people that I have on there with me are extremely important to helping me. I have a friend who lives about an hour away. He comes almost every weekend out here with me. He's got a big diesel truck, pays for his own gas. And that we have these thermal optics that we use because we go out at night. We owning the night is something that the United States likes to do. So
Mhm.
I took that motto that we had in the Army, and it's better to be able to go out at night and see everything and not be seen. And I would go out a lot of the times because when I'm not sleeping, I'll go out after my family goes to bed. I'll just head down there with my dog.
Wow.
I know we're wrapping up here, but gotta watch out for things like this that they leave out there for me. Pop my tires. Anyway, so the organization,
Insane.
the GOAT Initiative, and it's kind of a double meaning. People can't pronounce my last name, so people have called me GOAT for many, many, many years. It's Gautereaux. But this is the greatest of all time initiative.
I love it.
We are going to put a dent in this child trafficking, sex trafficking, labor trafficking, uh, organ transplant trafficking. We're going to put a dent in it, and we are right now. I know from some of my sources that when I post stuff online, and some of the other people you follow, they'll repost it. Um, they will move locations where there's people across.
Wow.
So your audience can find me on the website, the goatinitiative.org, the Goat Initiative on Instagram, and then my username on Instagram is the Cory Goat, Cory. I try to manage all this stuff at myself and be more professional with my videos that I'm posting online now. So just give me a little bit of a break until I can find someone that I trust to help me out here.
Well, I'll tell you, it's I don't know how to say this, because it's hard to put COVID in the same conversation of child trafficking. It just is, and it's like, which one really was smoke and mirrors, And what I will say is it is actually a huge selling point for you to see you start so novice and to see you just care and just like do and be committed. But then to hear the backstory, it's like the number of things that I have been trained in my entire military journey that I don't use today, but the idea of like just expressing all of that, like you get to, is remarkable. I imagine, in another conversation, we could probably talk about just how awesome it is. It's frightening. It sucks. It's dark. It's evil, but it's also probably, in my opinion, like there's so much that's just latent for me. Like outside of service to humanity, caring about the truth, caring about people, giving people informed consent, using my mind, as pre-med, that type of thing. I don't do anything that I was trained in, and sometimes that's a huge blessing. And sometimes it's like, well, what, and how could you, that treasure trove of information and stuff that maybe just sits there, like almost like a weight sometimes that you get to express on a day-to-day basis, just, I think it's one of the most, I'm very grateful to learn that about you. Short couple texts make fun of me because I'm a West Point guy, but it's the things that military guys can do with each other. Because once you see a man on a mission, and once you know that, so many of the ways that your life has kind of been put together, has prepared you for what you're doing. It's remarkable to see, and to see it from like literally from the ground up. For all of you listening still, and you're hanging with us, I will say, go to the goatinitiative.org and donate, because there's a character and there is a conviction and there is a mission that I believe every American can get behind, every San Diegan can get behind. And even maybe especially if you don't want to learn more, especially if this frightens you and you don't want to look at it. And maybe your friends don't want to have that conversation, that this is one of those investments that you can make in the future world for your children that they will benefit from, because it takes a man like you to guarantee that, which I genuinely appreciate you for, brother. I genuinely appreciate this time with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we have limited time and there's so many different things that we could talk about, all the different IDs and the passports and yeah, if you ever want to have me back on, and
I will be texting you right after this, because I think we should plan that, because I think there's a deeper, I was just thinking about this, it's funny because we're having a 2-year anniversary party, like why would a chiropractor, a pediatric chiropractor, care about child trafficking? Why would I care about COVID, and all the different things that have happened? And it's really just driven by my kids. It's really driven, my daughter's birthday, her 5th birthday was last week. And since the day she was born, I knew just that I had to level up my life. And Future Generations is about expecting miracles, right? It is about, people's inborn potential being largely unexpressed today. And in many respects, with regard to conventional healthcare and pharmaceutical industries, like crushed, like just the calculated, orchestrated. 54% of our kids have a chronic illness. But everything I've learned about life and health has been about the fact that we are all born this way. We're born with this inborn purpose and soul's kind of mission. And when I learned about that kind of that inner purpose, like the very next layer that I learned about that most people don't want to think about is protection. That once you realize that you're here for a reason, and once you know that your children are born and you're like so inspired by that very next level that you cannot skip is protecting them. A lot of people think that it's, maybe a little bit too, disciplinarian or whatever it is, like we think that we want to live in the pie in the sky, which is maybe the guise of what American culture has become. We rested on our laurels too much. And at the end of the day, from a Boulder perspective, from a child perspective, from a trafficking perspective, from everything that you highlighted, this couldn't be a higher priority for virtually every single American that is alive today, especially those who are in San Diego County, especially knowing that our legislators, if you want to call them that, are essentially voting in to fund the people who are keeping this system going. And it is insane to think about. And if you don't know that, well, you know that now because you're listening. But if you don't know that and you don't act upon that, then unfortunately you become part of the problem. And I think that's something that I'm very, very inspired to share about. And I appreciate you electrifying that in me.
Really appreciate you having me on. And one of the things you just brought up was purpose. And I was just, living my life and had no idea what my purpose was. And now that this has been I've been thrown into this whole arena, this is my purpose. And anyone on the bad side of this should be scared that I found my purpose.
Oh God, man. I love that. I appreciate you sharing that. Cory, you are salt of the earth, man. You are literally what I live my life doing. Like the more people I can meet like this is why I love being a podcaster. Is like, if there's something that I can say that is a unifying theme between the variety of topics that we talk about, is that I look for character. I look for people that are on a mission, and I look for people that are going to rehumanize a very dehumanistic evil process. And I'm just very grateful for you to exemplify it in a way that is so humbling to me, because I didn't know what I didn't know, and now I know more than I feel like I ever could have asked for in an hour. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll keep in touch.
As you probably know, I'm the clinic director of the Future Generations Clinic of Chiropractic. I wanted to invite those of you in the greater San Diego area to come check us out. We expect and experience miracles in our office every day, and would love for you to experience the same, as well as your family, especially your kids. This month, we're offering our new patient package for just $67 for podcast listeners. The offer retails at $349 and includes an in-depth consultation where our patients literally tell us we know more about their family's health in the first 15 minutes than virtually every doctor on their healthcare team combined. Our state-of-the-art clinical workup, including Insight nervous system scans, full spine digital x-rays, and a functional exam. We also include a full report of your results, a customized plan to realize your greatest health potential, as well as your first adjustment in our office. Check out the link in the show notes for all the details and claim the offer. Love and appreciate you all.